sexually violent predator with a history of abusing young children is now in his new home just across from the Spokane Arena near downtown. He officially registered as a sex offender in Spokane today. In 1987, David Durbin followed a 5-year-old girl into a church restroom, waited for her to come outside, and molested her. 2 years later, he was convicted of repeatedly assaulting a 10-year-old member of his family. In 2009, he was classified as sexually violent predator in order to live on McNeil Island and undergo therapy. He lived there for 9 years until he petitioned for a conditional release. Well, that release was granted by a Clark County judge who then sent him here to Spokane to live in a home just a few blocks away from where we are standing tonight on North Lincoln.
And during our reporting over the last week, we found that he's not the only one. There are already 4 other sexually violent predators living in that home. And the Spokane police chief and county sheriff didn't know about them until KXLY told them. Our Taylor Graham has what you need to know in this KXLY4 News exclusive. Taylor?
Well, Spokane Police Chief Craig Meidel and Sheriff Ozzie Knezevich were outraged when they learned Durbin would be moving here when he has no ties to the community. So imagine their shock when they learned he'd be moving in with 4 other sexually violent predators who have been convicted of kidnapping, raping, and molesting children. Those law enforcement officials say they didn't know because the state has no obligation to tell them about these predators moving into their community. They have to register as sex offenders, but the state does not have to reveal that they're still classified as sexually violent predators, still needing treatment for their issues. And in this case, they'll all be under one roof at this home on the 1200 block of North Lincoln.
There's no way that you should be comfortable with this if you're a citizen of this community.
Who are they? Albert Brooks kidnapped and raped teenage girls. John Markham molested young boys and admitted to having sexual contact with 18 other underage victims. Court documents show Lonnie Griggs sexually assaulted at least 7 children over 22 years. Ronald Gober admitted to sexually assaulting 9 children. And now they're joined by David Durbin, who served time for assaulting young children. For these men, the state believed prison time wasn't enough. They were ordered to extensive therapy at the Special Commitment Center on McNeil Island. Therapy that the state says can continue off the island, here in Spokane.
They are going to empty McNeil Island, and these violent sexual predators are going to end up in our communities. These are people that should never see freedom again.
But they're here, and the state says this house on Lincoln has room for 3 more. The city doesn't even require a special license or permit for that house to operate. It's something some counties in Washington don't allow. Only 6 counties right now are home to these predators under this type of release. And while these men roam through Spokane, some with chaperones paid for by the state, local law enforcement officers aren't able to tell if they're violating their conditional release agreements. They only show up in their databases as sex offenders.
There's no requirement that the state notify the local law enforcement if there is a violation. So if this individual goes out and decides to violate any number of those pages and pages and pages of requirements, we don't have any way of knowing that.
Now, a lot of you have been asking us how much the owner of the Lincoln house is making from this. The state is paying more than $1,000 a month for each of them in rent. We've been asking the state that same question for the last week. The state office told us late this afternoon that we'll have that number tomorrow. We'll let you know what we find out. In studio tonight, Taylor Graham, KXLY4 News.